Welcome back to our ongoing coverage of the Students for Liberty conference here in Washington, D.C. One of the great pleasures of these events is you meet very interesting people. Rod, you ran a very interesting workshop yesterday that I went to with a little bit of trepidation because it's one of those moments, and I think it's such an important thing for all of us to do, but it was one of those moments where I was like, I'm pretty sure I disagree with the fundamental premise behind what you're doing, but I still think there's an awful lot of value in it. Why don't you tell us, what was yesterday about?
We did a Climate and Freedom Accord workshop. And this is a workshop that asks the question, what would an international free market climate agreement look like?
Yeah.
If you address climate only through free market means, only by removing the barriers that are in the way of people, what would it look like and how far could that get you?
And this is what I found fascinating was the free market solution. Obviously, there's international climate agreements out the wazoo. We've got a million of them. Most of them aren't being actually honoured by the people that signed up to them. But the idea of a free market one is fascinating. So what brought about this? Well, we'll get to the specific proposal in a moment, but why did you choose to pursue free market solutions to this? I mean, we've already got the IPCC working on this. We've already got so many different government bodies working on solving this problem. What is it about the free market solution that you think or hope or believe would be better?
Well, listen, I come from the perspective of a philanthropic support for the freedom movement.
Okay.
My family's been involved in that for a long time. And the key strategy that has proved successful time and again is always addressing the issues of the day with a better free market solution.
Right.
No matter how ridiculous the issue is.
I see.
And in fact, the more ridiculous the issue, the more important it is to address it with a free market solution.
I can see that.
Because basically, if many people think this is a problem, right? You're going to get bad left-wing policy if all you're doing is saying, there's no such thing as global warming, or you're saying, all the left-wing policies are bad, and you're otherwise not at the table. You're going to lose, and that's what the free market movement is doing. We're losing at the national and international level everywhere on the climate issue, and so. If you pursue the free market solutions, you will block the bad solutions and you'll put in better solutions. And the win on the free market side is really big in this issue, more than any other issue.
It's fascinating to me because there's almost an element of Machiavellian rationale here, and taking advantage of the fear of the day, in a way hijacking the Hegelian dialect and saying, oh, well, they're offering that solution. We're not going to disagree with the problem. We're going to offer you a different solution to it and try and redirect that.
Sure.
So what is the specific mechanism? There was a specific mechanism, amongst other things, that was championed yesterday. Tell us about that mechanism.
Well, first of all, before that, let me just go 30,000-foot view.
Sure.
The problem of climate change is innovation acceleration. The technologies are not good enough.
Okay.
There's the problems with the fossil fuels with emissions. There's problem with the clean technologies with lack of dispatchability or lack of EV charging networks.
Sure.
Resources, not enough resources for any of this stuff. So we have to innovate, and the best way to innovate, since the time of the Enlightenment, we've found out that the best way to innovate is through free markets, right?
Sure.
Free markets accelerate innovation. So there is no such thing as a national solution to climate change because it's a global issue. So you have to do global free market streamlining.
Okay, but still free market.
So the basic idea of the accord, this agreement, is that nations would agree to open up their markets to free trade, competition, private property rights, which are essential to, regrowing rainforests and things like that, to things like low taxes. And they would do that because part of the deal involves a really clever new kind of internationalizable supply-side tax cut, where you're actually giving nations access to international capital flows. Okay. So this would be a reciprocal tax-exempt debt, something we call co-victory bonds, loans, and savings accounts. What that means is there's no tax on interest, right? The cost of capital is 30% less or more depending on your tax jurisdiction.
And that's simply because the person who then lends the money receives the interest that would normally be treated as profit. Now it's a tax-exempt profit. Therefore,
so the
effectively
interest
a
rate is
30%,
lower, right?
Effectively a high return.
So the entrepreneurs are paying less for their projects. It's directly reducing the cost. Now, the effect we know from looking at past supply side policies like full capital expensing and things like that,
Yep.
that supply side tax cuts like that reduce the cost of new investment.
Yes.
And you know, originally it was thought you do that, you get more investment, you get more jobs, you get more growth.
Right.
You also fight inflation because you're increasing supply.
Right.
What the original supply siders didn't quite realize is that there's an added surprise benefit,
Okay.
which is that you're decarbonizing the economy.
Right.
You actually have environmental benefits because when you introduce when you accelerate the pace that people are adopting new equipment and new technologies, the new equipment and new technologies are always more efficient and cleaner than the old stuff.
Sure.
So across the board, without picking winners and losers, you know, you're accelerating the energy transition.
So to be clear, this isn't specific to particular technologies.
No.
This is entirely agnostic.
Not
It's
picking
simply
winners
a
and
product
losers.
that is available.
Right.
That's it.
It applies to PP&E, the same thing that full capital expensing does.
Yep.
So property, plant, and
Full
equipment.
capital expensing for Australians, that's your instant asset write-off. That's the American equivalent.
Right. There's lots of different names for it
Yeah.
around the world.
Yeah.
So but basically the way it works is that entrepreneurs, developers, fund managers, banks could issue any kind of tax-exempt debt.
Yep.
Whether it's bonds, loans, or even savings accounts, that even somebody who just has a savings account can participate. It's highly inclusive. And they could pool these into co-victory funds and invest them everywhere around the world where you have another Accord nation that's signed up to this framework.
Right.
So the Accord nations, they get these international capital flows, which involves both debt and equity, by the way,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
because the equity comes along with it.
Yeah.
Right. So you get, you know, this is a replay of 1980s supply side policy. You know, the supply siders deregulated markets.
Yep.
They opened up natural gas, power, telecoms, transportation, airlines,
Sure.
lots of them. And at the same time, they provided supply side tax cuts to provide investment for the new opportunities.
Okay.
So the Climate and Freedom Accord does the same thing. It opens up markets around the world to new investment. It provides a supply side tax cut that is decarbonizing, you know, and then it also, it basically finances those new investments. And the Accord also suggests a couple of other kinds of clean tax cuts that are also technologically neutral, a couple of things on the equity side that drive decarbonization as well.
Can I try and repeat back to you what I think I've understood? I'm not a finance guy. I'm not a
Sure.
big money guy. Most of my viewers, they're very, very smart people, but this isn't their area. Let me see if I can encapsulate this. Essentially, for a long time, people that believe in free markets have been trying to get countries to allow more trade, to open up capital markets, to do all of these sorts of things. Essentially, what you're now doing is you're packaging that up and highlighting for those countries and augmenting through the particular strategy the carbon dioxide emissions reductions aspect of
Right.
that. But you're not allowing them to access that part of it unless they also bring along with it the opening up of markets and some of the deregulation, et cetera, that you've spoken about.
Right, exactly. But, you know, on the other hand, we're not stopping anybody from doing unilateral free trade,
Oh, of course.
you know, or anything like that. But what the Accord really does is if you sign up, you get access to these reciprocal supply side tax cut capital flows.
Yeah.
And you also get exempt from one Accord nation applying a carbon tax to another, a carbon border adjustment mechanism.
Yeah.
So it's a way of pushing back on the carbon tariffs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So in any event, but we're you know, one of the things that we've done to support the discussion of these ideas is earlier this year, last year, I started the International the Climate and Freedom International Coalition meeting.
Okay.
So once a month, we have meetings, you know, of all the think tanks, journalists, activists, politicians, Students for Liberty folks.
Yeah.
Students for Liberty is, by the way, a founding member of that coalition.
Okay.
And they are, you know, talking about free market climate solutions. We're doing workshops here and at after every Atlas regional liberty forum
Yep.
on what should this look like, engaging free market think tanks. The Argentinian Taxpayers Association is introducing this to the Malay government.
Yeah.
We're doing a conference with them in March.
Yeah.
So anybody who wants to join on, is welcome to look us up and become part of this. And it's a great opportunity for liberty-minded people to work together across borders. I think that the bang for the buck here is bigger than anything else in the liberty movement, because the potential to flip the script and open up markets globally on this issue is huge. So the right has been really ignoring this issue or wishing it goes away because they find it hard to argue with, free markets are destroying the environment. Well, guess what? Free markets aren't destroying the environment, they're the solution.
Yeah.
And if you start to learn how that works, then you can talk about it and win the argument.
Yeah.
And win the argument on the policy table.
Yeah.
I
I find that a fascinating concept. As soon as I saw that symposium or the think tank yesterday was happening, I thought, I've got to be there. I need to see what this looks like and see what this is. And I'm very glad I was. It's a fascinating concept, and I wish wind in your sails and the sun on your back. I really hope that you find some success here.
Well, Topher, we really need somebody to set up the Pacific Region Climate and Freedom International Coalition meeting.
I'm probably not your guy, because keeping my mouth shut on my views on carbon dioxide is not something I'm very good at. But look, I wish you all the very best, and thank you so much for speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.